I crouched behind a pile of crates, my eyes scanning the alleyway for any sign of movement. The city's perpetual hum filled my ears, a constant reminder of the dangers that lurked in every corner. I adjusted my rifle, the weight of it feeling comforting against my shoulder. My trained hands instinctively went to the magazine, and I checked its load. 20 rounds, nothing out of the ordinary. Just another day on the job for me, a lone operator with a reputation for being one of the best in the business. My earpiece crackled to life, a low voice from HQ providing support and guidance. "Rook, this is Lima 6. We've got a potential target in the 3rd District. ETA is at least an hour." I nodded mentally as I assessed my surroundings. The alleyway was narrow, but it would give me cover. I took a deep breath, preparing myself for what was to come. The door to the alleyway swung open, and a figure emerged from the shadows. Tall and lean, with eyes that gleamed like polished steel. A hint of a smile played on his lips as he approached me. "Good morning, Rook," he said, his voice smooth as silk. "I'm looking for someone who's been indiscreet." My gut tightened, instinct screaming at me to be ready. "Who are you?" I asked, my hand resting on the grip of my rifle. He chuckled again, a low, menacing sound. "Oh, Rook, you know exactly who I am. Just drop it and let's talk." The figure stepped closer, his eyes never leaving mine. I could feel the air thicken with tension as he drew near. His lean frame seemed to absorb the light around him, making him all but invisible in the dim alleyway. "Rook," he said again, his voice dripping with an almost familiar sweetness. "I've been looking for you. We need to talk." His words were like a slow-burning fire, warming the air around me. I tried to keep my focus on him, but it was no use. My eyes kept drifting back to the crates behind us, wondering how long he'd be here. He stopped in front of me, his chest barely rising with each slow breath. "I've got a job for you, Rook," he said finally, his voice low and even. "It's big, and it's personal. Are you interested?" His smile was a thin-lipped thing that seemed to curl the corners of his mouth upward. I felt a shiver run down my spine as our eyes locked. This guy was trouble. The alleyway was quiet now, the only sound the distant hum of the city. It was a reminder that we were alone, and that meant more than just the danger lurking outside these walls. This guy knew exactly what he was doing, and I had a bad feeling about it. "What kind of job?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He chuckled again, this time with a hint of amusement in his eyes. "Oh, Rook, you know exactly what kind of job we're talking about." I raised an eyebrow, intrigued despite myself. There was something about him that didn't add up, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. "Let's just say you'll be informed," he said, his smile growing wider. "When and where will the job be?" He paused for a moment, as if weighing his next words carefully. Then, in one smooth motion, he reached out and snagged my radio frequency. The hum of the signals died, replaced by an oppressive silence. "You have 15 minutes, he said finally, before vanishing into thin air, or so it seemed. The sudden absence left me feeling disoriented, like I'd been punched in the gut. But I knew what was coming next, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. I stood frozen, my radio still clutched in my hand as the silence enveloped me like a shroud. The alleyway seemed to stretch out before me like a dark canvas, waiting for the brushstrokes of fate. My eyes scanned the crates, searching for any sign of movement, but they remained silent and still. 15 minutes ticked by at an agonizing pace, each passing moment building my anxiety into a living thing. I felt like I was trapped in some kind of nightmare, with no escape from the impending doom that lurked ahead. Finally, the radio crackled to life once more, its static-filled voice speaking words that sent shivers down my spine. "Rook, this is Mission Control. We've received your confirmation code. The job is assigned to Sector 7, Delta 9. Be at the extraction point by 0600 hours sharp." My heart sank like a stone in water as I stared blankly into space. What kind of mission could require me to be so early? And what did this Sector 7 Delta 9 have to do with me? I tried to shake off the feeling of unease, telling myself it was just another random assignment from HQ. But deep down, I knew better. There was something about Mission Control's tone, a hint of excitement, a whisper of urgency, that hinted at something more. As if sensing my turmoil, Rook reappeared before me, his lean frame now lit by the faint glow of the alleyway's streetlights. His eyes gleamed with an almost feral intensity as he fixed me with an unblinking stare. "Ready to meet your employers, Rook?" I forced a smile onto my face, trying to play it cool despite the turmoil building inside me. "Yeah, I'm ready, elite." Rook's smile was a thin-lipped thing that seemed to curl the corners of his mouth upward. He took a step closer, his eyes never leaving mine as he spoke. "I'll need you to meet me at the extraction point by 0600 hours sharp, and be prepared for anything." He paused, his chest rising and falling with each slow breath. Then, in one swift motion, he reached out and grasped my wrist, a gentle pressure that sent a jolt of electricity through my arm. I tried to shake him off, but it was too late. The grip was like a vice, holding me in place as Rook's eyes seemed to bore into mine. "You're coming with me, Rook." The words were barely audible over the pounding of my heart, but they sent shivers down my spine nonetheless. I knew that I had no choice, not when Rook spoke. And then, without another word, he vanished into the shadows once more, leaving me alone in the darkness of the alleyway. As I stood frozen, my mind racing with conflicting emotions, fear, uncertainty, and a hint of excitement, the alleyway seemed to shrink around me. The silence was oppressive, like a physical force pressing down on my chest. I strained to listen for any sound, but the only noise was the faint hum of the city outside. My eyes drifted back to Rook's retreating figure, his lean frame now disappearing into the shadows like a dark specter. My skin prickled with goose flesh as I wondered what had just happened. What kind of mission could require me to be so early? And what did this Sector 7 Delta 9 have to do with me? I tried to shake off the unease, telling myself it was just another random assignment from HQ. But deep down, I knew better. There was something about Mission Control's tone, a hint of excitement, a whisper of urgency, that hinted at something more. As if sensing my turmoil, Rook reappeared before me, his eyes gleaming with an almost feral intensity as he fixed me with an unblinking stare. "I'm not going to leave you in suspense, Rook. You know what this is about." I forced a calm smile onto my face, trying to play it cool despite the turmoil building inside me. "Yeah, Ido, elite." Rook's gaze lingered on mine for a fraction of a second before he stepped closer, his eyes never leaving mine as he spoke. "You're coming with me, Rook." He paused, his chest rising and falling with each slow breath. Then, in one swift motion, he grasped my wrist, a gentle pressure that sent a jolt of electricity through my arm. "Be ready," he said finally, before vanishing into the shadows once more. I was left standing alone in the darkness, my mind reeling with questions. What I got myself into? Why did Rook need me at this hour? And what lay ahead? The silence stretched out around me like a physical force, weighing me down with its oppressive presence. My heart pounded in my chest, threatening to burst free from its confines. I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself, telling myself it was just another mission gone wrong. But as I stood there, frozen in uncertainty, the darkness seemed to press in around me, threatening to consume me whole. And then, without warning, I heard the sound of footsteps echoing through the alleyway, light, deliberate steps that seemed to be growing louder by the second. My heart skipped a beat as I realized that I was not alone. Someone, or something, was following me. I tried to call out for Rook, but my voice caught in my throat. Instead, I turned and sprinted back towards the alleyway's entrance, hoping against hope that the footsteps were coming from within. But as I emerged into the bright light of day, I realized with a jolt of terror that I was not alone. A figure stood waiting for me on the other side of the street, a tall, imposing man with piercing blue eyes and a cruel smile. My heart racing, I tried to back away slowly, but my legs felt like lead. The figure took a step closer, its eyes never leaving mine as it spoke. "Rook's not here, Rook," he said, his voice dripping with malice. "And neither are you." The words sent a chill down my spine as I realized that something was very wrong indeed. As I emerged into the bright light of day, I realized that I was not alone. A figure stood waiting for me on the other side of the street. A tall, imposing man with piercing blue eyes and a cruel smile. I tried to back away slowly, but my legs felt like lead. The figure took a step closer, its eyes never leaving mine as it spoke. "Rook's not here, Rook," he said, his voice dripping with malice. My heart racing, I forced myself to stand still, trying to process what was happening. Who was this man? And why did he know so much about my mission? The figure took another step closer, its eyes gleaming with a cold calculation. I could feel the air grow thick with tension as it loomed over me, its presence making my skin crawl. Suddenly, Rook reappeared before me, his eyes blazing with an intense light as he fixed me with an unblinking stare. "You're coming with me, Rook." I hesitated for a fraction of a second, unsure of what to do. But the figure's words sent a jolt of fear through my veins. I knew that Rook wouldn't leave me alone. The figure took another step closer, its eyes never leaving mine as it spoke. "I'm not going to let you go." I tried to stand still, but my legs felt like lead as I struggled to maintain my balance. The figure's presence seemed to be suffocating me, making it hard for me to breathe. Rook stepped forward, his voice low and urgent as he whispered in my ear. "Don't listen to him, Rook." But the figure shook its head, its eyes never leaving mine as it spoke. "We're not going anywhere. This is where you belong." I felt a surge of fear as I realized that I was trapped. The figure's words seemed to be crawling under my skin, making me feel like I was losing control. Suddenly, Rook grabbed my wrist again, this time with a firm grip that sent a jolt of electricity through my arm. I tried to struggle free, but he held tight. The figure stepped closer, its eyes blazing with an intense light as it spoke. "You're coming with me." I felt a surge of panic as the world around me began to spin. What was happening? Why was Rook doing this? Rook's eyes locked onto mine, his gaze burning with intensity as he whispered in my ear. "Don't resist." But I couldn't help myself. I tried to struggle free, but the figure's grip held tight. As I struggled, a low hum began to build in my ears, making it hard for me to think. The world around me grew darker and more distorted, like a twisted reflection of reality. And then, everything went black. I struggled against the figure's grip, my heart racing with fear as I tried to escape. But its hand seemed rooted to mine, holding me fast like a prisoner. The world around me grew darker, the air thickening into a heavy blanket that suffocated me. Rook's voice whispered in my ear, his words echoing off the streets of New Haven. "Don't listen to him," he urged, his breath cold against my skin. But I couldn't respond, unable to tear myself away from the figure's icy grip. The hum in my ears grew louder, a buzzing that vibrated through every cell in my body. It was like a living thing, pulsing with an otherworldly energy that threatened to consume me whole. The figure's eyes gleamed with excitement as it leaned in closer, its breath whisper soft against my skin. Suddenly, the world around us began to distort and writhe, like a living snake slithering through the streets of New Haven. Buildings twisted and turned, their walls writhing like serpents as they merged into impossible shapes. The air filled with an unearthly screech that sent shivers down my spine. Rook's grip tightened around mine, his eyes burning with an unholy intensity. "Don't look away," he warned, his voice a cold, calculating calm in the face of madness. But I couldn't help myself. I forced myself to gaze into the figure's eyes, mesmerized by their piercing blue light. The world around us melted and flowed like paint on wet canvas, leaving behind only a sea of twisted colors that seemed to writhe and twist with every breath. The hum grew louder still, its vibrations seeping into my very marrow as I felt myself becoming lost in the swirling vortex of reality. And then, suddenly, everything went black. When I came to, I found myself standing alone on the street, the buildings around me slowly returning to their normal shapes and colors. The air was still thick with tension, but it had receded ever so slightly, leaving behind a sense of unease that lingered like a scar. As I stumbled away from the city streets, I caught glimpses of Rook's tall form watching over me from across the square. His piercing blue eyes locked onto mine, his gaze burning with an intense light that seemed to burn into my very soul. But he didn't come closer. Instead, he simply nodded once, twice, before vanishing into the crowd like a ghost. I stumbled on, my mind reeling with questions and fears as I struggled to make sense of what had just happened. Rook's words echoed in my mind. Don't listen to him. But who was this man? What did he want from me? As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting New Haven in a warm orange glow, I stumbled into the safety of my apartment building, the hum still echoing in my ears like a deadly reminder that something was terribly wrong.